falling to scars, but still making it to phase 1.
Northampton have been on the kind of come up a little bit over the past few months as well, just barely missing qualification for SI a few months back and then improving their performance slowly but surely since then to now actually make it through and qualify here by placing second in the Japan League. Now, of course, making their way to the major. We have to see if they're going to be up for the challenge against Revan. Like we said, has that very interesting story of just importing a lot of players from EU, so you have a lot of experience being mixed in there from places like UCL, as well as I think one of them played in EUL during 2020, so a few years back there as well. Quite a bit of experience still to be spread amongst that team, so we're going to have to see how they face off against each other. It's very much a trial by fire for both teams as far as international competition is concerned. It'll be a best of one to start things out here.
Well, yeah, and a best of one, and as Jenny mentioned earlier, it is a double elim bracket, so if you move down, you play a best of 3, but if you lose that best of 3, you're out. So there are some teams that if they lose both their games today, they might say goodbye to us very early for the Copenhagen Major. Could be Northampton, could be Revan, but I doubt either team wants to be in anywhere close to that spot. If you win 2 best of 1s, if Northampton or Revan does, they'll make it to phase 2. They'll just have to hope they end up making it. And I definitely think, at least me personally, both these teams have a good shot at winning this. I'm feeling a little bit biased towards Northampton personally, at least for how I think they might win.
It's going to be the same for me. I think Northampton just has a little bit more of a kind of solid package going on for themselves right now compared to what we saw out of Revan, who struggled a little bit inside of those LCQs in order to make it forward. But like we said before, we could be surprised with it. There's a very good chance for this matchup to go either way, especially with the nature of it being a best of 1, and especially once we get to see the map veto as well. Just once we get to talk about that in a little bit more, I think the map is going to play into this one pretty heavily in terms of why this matchup may end up being relatively even between these two teams.
I wonder where we're going to go, because that's my main question. Because both these teams, especially Revan, have talked about that. They definitely like to focus more on their gameplay inside of the server, don't focus as much on prep. And for Northampton, at least me personally, they're a bit more of an unknown quantity in that regard. I think the map could be a big surprise for us, and we actually have the map veto ready. So if we want to take a look at it, where are we going, boys?
And it looks like we're going to be heading to Oregon for map number 1. It's a Siege Classic as far as everyone is concerned, so it's not going to be too surprising to see that being brought out immediately. That also means it'll be relatively comfortable, I think, for both of these teams. That plays into what Alex was mentioning before, where this should, in theory, because of that, kind of be a close matchup between these two teams.
Yeah, even if a team has a 1-2 record or a 2-1 record, even a flawless record on Oregon, this is a map that everybody plays. It's going to be in everybody's pool, and they're going to be to some degree comfortable on it. Maybe it's not their favorite map. Hell, maybe they'll even ban it out first or second in a best of 1, but it's never really going to be somebody's permaban, and if it is, it's just out of personal preference, not because they're not prepared on it. However, this is a little bit worrying for Revan, not because, they're not practiced on Oregon, but especially on the attack. They're a very aggressive team. They like to send Joe in by himself, and it's hard to get away with aggressive plays on Oregon. You're often funneled down hallways or funneled down stairwells, and if that's the same strategy they go with and they just send Joe against Northampton, he's going to die, and they're going to be down in a 4v5 very early on.
It's difficult to play that way versus Northampton, too, because if they try to play this similarly to how they played it against Scars during the finals of the Japan League where they qualified for this event, it's going to be very weird contending against kind of the roam game that we're more than likely going to see Northampton bring out on their defensive side. They play a very slow, but at the same time, very active roam, like, for instance, having a player hide out inside of, like, small tower and things like that when they're playing on their tertiary site, but then very careful with their timing of when that player actually jumps into action. They try to extend it as long as possible and just bait out all of that time. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to play a very front-focused strategy if you're coming into this one as Revan on the attack, which I believe is going to end up being the case. They'll end up starting out on that side when we get into the game, it looks like.
And going off that point that you just said, how Northampton, as opposed to some teams on Oregon who typically will just bunker on the site, especially on a site like Basement, they do like to go for some of those extensions up to the middle floor or even the top floor in some cases. A player like Draw, who I did a podcast recently with Super, not to plug, myself, but Fresh mentioned that Draw is a player that he thinks a lot of you at home should pay attention to, because even though Joe might be the most well-known player on this team, Draw is a very, very talented player coming out of the T2 scene in Europe, and he plays that flex position, that Nook operator, and often, if you're struggling to clear out an extension, or if you're in a 4v5 and you are going into that clear in a man disadvantage, it's players like Draw who are on that flex who can maybe hit a lurk in the mid-round that can turn what is basically just banging your head against the wall into a winnable round, even if you're starting at a disadvantage.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be getting into it here. As you can see, in just under a minute now, our teams are getting prepared to jump into the matchups. Let's get ourselves ready for it. Like we talked about before, it's a best of 1, no elimination contention just yet, but this is a very, very tough group draw situation, as we've now shifted over to GSL groups with the new format, meaning that if you lose this one matchup, one more best of 3 can potentially send you home here on the very first day of plays. Teams have to keep their wits about them and make sure they focus up for this first matchup, as it can determine quite heavily your trajectory for the next few days at a minimum.
And it'll require some mental adjustment from these players as well. Again, if you didn't tune into the majors last year, you had about 6 best of ones, and you could drop 1 or 2 before you ended up actually making it to the next phase of the major. Here, like you said, lose a best of 1, and you're on a do or die game. And this could be treated as do or die right now, whether you're a Northeption or a Revan fan. Definitely one of the more closer games that we'll have in these groups, both from, or at least regions that were either lumped into other regions previously, now their own thing. Both of them will try to prove themselves, not only as teams, but also as representatives of their regions.
As we can see here, some of the players on the side. Now, we'll get our first ban in from Northeption, and it's going to lean towards Nook.
Yep.
Nook has obviously been seeing a lot of play, specifically here on Oregon, to have that sort of solo flank and surprise capability to jump onto any more aggressively lean defense. Now going to be knocked out of play. This is a pretty expected ban, too. Ying's been incredibly popular for a long time here on this map, and now has seen even more play as of late, so it makes perfect sense to ban her out here.
Especially on Oregon, if you're gonna say bunker on basement and just try to hold angles on the site, Ying can completely throw your setup out of whack. If you're Revan and if you go to the defense eventually, you're not gonna want to worry about any of those Candelas moving into play. A zombie ban coming out from Revan as well. This is their preferred defensive operator. I think out of like 16 operator ban phases they've gone to, this is 14 of their 16 defensive bans. So definitely favoring that Azami over the Valkyrie. And speaking of the Valkyrie, that's Northeption's preferred defensive ban. And will they go for it?
Ooh,
no, they will not. They'll ban the Kapkan. Interestingly enough, I will say this. Joe, I've mentioned earlier, is notorious for kind of running in by himself in the early round. Kapkan might actually, or a Kapkan ban might actually be a bit of a buff to Revan's playstyle starting on the attack.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they try to utilize it. The ban itself, just looking at it from a normal sense, though, does make sense in the fact that, again, much like a lot of the other operators in the pool, we've been seeing an increased amount of play out of Kapkan. He can be very annoying if you end up in a situation where you're going for all these very low-timed executes, so we'll have to see how the ban potentially changes things up here. If we're seeing Revan get away with those late-round executes, there may be a mistake coming in from Northeption's side if they wanted to potentially use that. But at the same time, if they're thinking, we never really want to incorporate him into our lineup, we can just chuck him out so that we at least don't have to deal with that when we go into the second half. Either way, though, we are live with the matchup now as we head into the first round. We're already going to see some interesting stuff come out from Northeption. I was talking with you about this as well in the pregame. They like to go for a pretty aggressive roam from time to time on their basement holds, which is not something we tend to generally see from a global perspective.
Oh, no.
This will be really interesting to see how Northeption play this out now against a team from another region.
Part of the reason that you don't often see extensions on basement, it's not even that the strats are necessarily bad, it's just you have so much of what you already need on the bottom floor itself. You put someone maybe by the laundry machine and inside a pillar, and you can contest most of the entryways, or at least the stairwells, down into the bomb site. And because of how much the attack needs to open, especially those hatches, the defense's opportunities to rotate their utility. But look at this, Joe already creeping down laundry stairs. It's barricaded, so they gotta break it open. Yukiz immediately pops the head on Joe. 5v4 very early on. I mentioned Joe might be an early death, but even I'm a bit surprised at how quick this one's going.
Sam's gonna be in a bit of trouble too here, so he gets forced back early because of the toxic babe situation. Nicely done from Favor there to quickly force that back. Stem the tide of this aggression before it goes too far out of Northeption's control. Revan are gonna realize this is a bit more complicated than first appeared, so they'll slow things down a little bit now as well, but still very much on the hunt. As we're following Draw right now on the sledge, going for a big rapid. He may very well slam a kill in here as well. Gonna find it. Sauchan, unfortunately, none the wiser to that situation, so we'll get spotted out by it. Gets tripped up a little bit here by the hologram, but thankfully no consequences. That is, he's in a pretty safe position. Nina, though, on the flank. This is the big player for Northeption, so we're looking for some big plays throughout the course of this round, but just not gonna happen as Runner establishes a proper cutoff and takes down Nina in the process.
A very hectic attack and a rush completely thwarted by the defense, but Northeption are now the ones caught off guard. The castle goes to retake top floor, but the attack, while pulling out from that rush, has now taken some decent control of the middle floor and cut any rotation or any flank over on that white stair side. It's the big tower side that is now safer for the defense, and that's where Shuri is trying to contest and find some angles against the attacking team. And now Revan are adapting. They've recognized the opportunity they have with a minute 20 left. They can start opening freezer, they can start opening laundry. Meeting might take a little bit more work and maybe some more droning as well to make sure that nobody from Northeption is actually over by those stairs. But Sharif is pushing forward. Now they do have to be careful. A minute left, and especially with Fabar on low HP, somebody on the defense has got to make a play lest the attack gain even more ground with the final minute.
Should continue to try and stem the tide here with that final minute remaining. Shrip gonna try and go for an aggressive play inside of meeting. It has the lineup for it as well. Sam gets his head cut off, forced back deeper into the play now as Reven need to reanalyze things. They're in even numbers, and there's still that Toxic Babe holding things back. Thankfully, the final one just now expiring from Favor, so it should be a clean push from Wrath. No secondary phone call available, though, for Wrath. Both have already been used at this late phase of the round, so there's gonna be a little bit of a lack for intel. Most of the drones are gone, but they still have a few in the pocket, including at least one or two from either Draw or Wrath. So should be able to get that intel through another means, but getting low on time just may not be able to reckon towards it. You're gonna have to force the issue. Runner gets a clean entry to start things out. It's what we needed to see. Shuri also moves out, though, for the 1-to-1 exchange, but it's not gonna be enough as Runner holds things consistently, and Reven claim the first round.
And Northampton holding a lot of very good positions right there, especially that player pushed up into Freezer in the late round. That could have completely stopped Reven from pushing in. And same with the early round as well. Even though Reven end up losing the opening engagement, Northampton are holding on to, say, White Stairs or the upstairs position, but then they just simply lose their fights. You have the Jaeger upstairs who's caught on drone. That makes a 5v4, a 4v4, thanks to Draw wrapping around and getting the kill inside of Attic. And in the late round right there, Runner just creeps up Freezer, and that player holding that position is caught looking the wrong way. Those two gunfights brought back a seemingly losable round for Reven, not only stopping the damage dealt by a failed rush, but also in a very late execute in which Reven lacked a lot of control. Now they had it back to a man advantage, and now back to something workable.
Nicely played there by Reven to control the situation, keep the chaos in check, and take control over what was, from their perspective, probably a very weird setup to play against the Northampton, going again for that kind of extended, aggressive roam all the way up to the second floor, playing from the basement. Bit of a treat to see that, but obviously it doesn't pan out too well for Northampton, so we'll have to see if they change the game plan. We've gone to a retry of basement later on in the game. For right now, though, they're moving onward up to the second floor defense. Reven will make a few adjustments as well, specifically the Brava coming in now for Draw to deal with some of those interior site gadgets, such as the Banshees, potentially an Electric Claw as well, that'll help to move things forward a bit more quickly here for Reven's assault.
Or even just acquire a default cam to watch. I mean, one thing that I could think of, for example, maybe just acquiring the Showers cam, make sure that nobody can end up flanking from that position. If you don't want to take control of, say, Kitchen, you want to focus on other parts of the map, like Master Bedroom Office or Attic, or even the Armory cam as well, as once you take Trophy, make sure that nobody can flank up main stairs. That allows you to allocate your drones to different positions, either to watch flank or to actively use Joe, who almost spots somebody playing aggressive inside of the site, but he's focused on the concrete position, and excellent patience from Joe. Not a phrase you often say, but holding that angle, gets the first kill, and Northampton, no real opportunity to trade that one. And with a hack on the Electric Claw as well, this is a great first minute from Reven.
I think that's all three of the charges going for the Brava drone successfully. They're nicely played out on the utility usage from him. He'll take some actual control, and as he mentioned here as well, does open up the walk-in closet wall pretty much easily for the taking, but the next swing from Joe is going to be unsuccessful. Shuri from the defensive side on Northampton ends up winning out the second fight instead, re-equalizing us down to a 4v4, probably causing a little bit of passive play now from Reven as they try to analyze what the best next move is going to be. And of course, all these gadgets still just open for the taking here as they're continuing to be stolen away by Draw. Finally, this one's going to get interrupted, though, after only the first charge is used.
To clear that Banshee. That now means Runner can start creeping on in and take the fight with the player in concrete. Sayochan, a big kill right there, bringing back the man advantage for the defense. Reven's entry is a lot harder. Ooh, Draw unfortunate. Not really aware that the player's still inside of security. That's where Joe died to as well. A little bit of a miscommunication or forgotten intelligence gathered by Reven. Now that leaves Wrath, the only one left outside of the bedroom wall. And sure, Northampton have dropped some gunfights, especially in the last round, but this should be a pretty easy 1v3 to clean up.
Yeah, Wrath unfortunately not with much play contention here inside of the 1vx scenario. Gonna try to play it slowly. He still has a full minute after all, so we can take his time on this one. Give Reven a little bit of time to analyze what may have potentially gone wrong inside of the execute itself. You can see it here from our top-down POV at the top left there. It's just anytime he takes a step into the site, he's going to be stepping into one, if not multiple angles from Northampton. They've set this up pretty much perfectly. They're not taking any risks inside of the 1vx here either, as they need to catch up from the loss on round one here, make sure they stabilize and take the 1-1 scoreline into round three, especially if they're going to end up skipping the second basement play and go for a tertiary site immediately. They need to make sure the score is in the best position possible here. Phone call still available for Rathos, who's going to use it as he tries to sneak around towards White Stairs, where there is a player waiting, and hey, the top White Stairs kill does pay off this time. Not prone, though. But we are going to see that kill come in from the Japanese squad as they do claim the tie point now at 1-1.
Good start from Reven as opposed to their round number one, which started with them entering a man disadvantage. But the mid-round right there was pretty sloppy from the attack. I'm not going to lie to you. Joe just walking up Z, seemingly knew that a player might be in security, but caught completely off guard with how aggressive that Smoke or Mute was playing inside of security, then later on draw dies to the very same player in the exact same position. Just the intel for Revan seemed to be very solid in the early round, especially the game sense, just saying, okay, I'll go on this repel, see if I can get a kill on the player concrete, and it works out. For the mid round though, when they already had a man advantage, you can't be losing advantages like that at this level of play, especially in that fashion, just dying to the same player in the same position.
It's a small hiccup for the time being for Revan, but they've got an immediate chance to correct upon it, depending on how North Eption potentially change up their own style of play here too. Maybe returning to a more traditional hold on the basement, but we'll hold our breath on that until we get a better sense of the setup. They have brought the Goyo into the second basement hold now, which makes me believe they're going to be pulling things back a little bit, given how Revan kind of matched the energy from North Eption with a very aggressive start to their own attack. So North Eption indeed looks like they're still going to be out and about. Once again, we'll be much more contained here to try and make sure that they can play off of the benefits that the basement site provides in and of itself downstairs.
And I think especially for this site, because of how strong that bunker is, it's probably for the best. You don't want to give Revan or players like Draw or Joe the opportunity to get an opening pick, and then potentially move further off that advantage. Let them clear out their utility, let them have to coordinate and do things that don't involve getting kills, and that can be sometimes where Revan can struggle against some of these stronger opponents. Not much presence on the top floor beyond Summon Freezer and security. That Goyo does need to be careful, though. He has support and has someone who can help him rotate back inside of Freezer stairs, but he is cut off. He'll have to rotate in front of someone if they're holding that shower's hallway. And Joe could also move into maybe green or even kitchen, open up a hole in the wall to go for the pinch on the Goyo. Now the drone knows. Down goes the Goyo. Excellent intel gathering by Revan, able to take down that Goyo. Now the Warden, like, gonna need to fall back.
Sharif just a second or two early there on the Nitro cell, and Draw, the player that takes the majority of damage from it, gets revenge pretty much a few seconds later there. Sharif being brought down now to about a third of his own HP, having to back away from that situation over at the top of the White Stairs area. Away from that though, we're going to see quick work of the rest of the hatches being deployed. Now, since we've seen the Hibana brought out by Revan, so they'll open up a pathway into the basement. This is where North Eption, of course, going to be tested a bit more, and even more so now that Drawl has claimed second blood. Sharif ends up being taken down outright, is not able to successfully fall back through the freezer, and as a result of that, it's already a 5v3 advantage here for Revan as they look to take a second attack on the basement site here.
Moving very quickly to fill that gap now that they've entered the 5v3. They can start pressuring Freezer a lot more aggressively, because if somebody from North Eption holds an aggressive position in, say, long run the washing machine, Revan can play the 1v1 and still maintain at least a two-body lead over the defense. Nina contesting the hatch will dodge a frag grenade for the moment, and this is where the round might be made or broken. If they can get a kill on this back tower stairs, which Nina's going for, but the aggression does not pay off. Favar also losing a hell of a lot of damage, only on two players of the defense to try and bring this back.
It's actually trying to fight fire with fire here as they get hyper-aggressive. Sayo-chan getting one more for the team's record, but ultimately still goes down to the trade to Joe. Favar, the only one left alive, and doesn't stay that way for very long as Joe finds a very quick second kill there to end the round, and indeed give over a second successful attack now to Revan as they take the lead once again at 2-1 over their opponents here.
Revan have got what is often considered the minimum on Oregon. They've got those two attacks, and it's on basement as well. So North Eption in a very difficult spot. They've won dorms, which is the secondary site, and still a very good site for the defense. But they've lost basement twice, which is unequivocally the best on this map. And now they have to go to a tertiary bomb site where they have struggled to really get a good defense on the bulwark on this map. They'll go to dining and kitchen as their main one. At least in North America, of course, John, this is the least preferred site that we're used to. North Eption will decide to go as their third attempt now.
North Eption do love to do this nice little extension of small tower, however, so this is expected from them based on their play inside of the Japan League, but it's important to keep in mind these little aggressive extensions they've been going for is, even if we look at last round to the kind of pulled back version of that in the basement, they're still giving over far too many opportunities, it seems, for Revan to get those early entries, and Revan are sinking them every single time. So North Eption are going to be very careful with how they try to play out this aggression now, as it's cost them quite a bit inside of the early round, leaving them without much of a chance to come back. Second round a bit different, because they just played into, for the most part, a default on the upstairs kids site, and that went pretty much swimmingly, so they're going to have to hope for a bit more of a correction this time as they play into this tertiary site and look for another tie point at 2-2.
I'm interested to see if Revan decide to go for the small tower clear, because the utility, at least to clear maybe some of those ADSs, isn't bountiful. Of course, they have those frag grenades and they have those EMPs. So if they land where those ADSs are, that'll work out. But ooh, poor droning. Not poor refrag game, though, as Shurip takes down Joe. That does mean Revan still get the trade with Runner very close behind. That probably favors North Eption, though. You've lost the Alibi, who's already placed all of our utility and taken down 2 of the 4 frag grenades that Revan have. So even though Shurip dies and you don't get a man advantage, that's some important utility taken off the board.
Runner will continue to try and carve through the rest of the second floor setup, which, as you can see, is quite prevalent still for North Eption. Both Nina and one additional member of this team playing up here, but Nina, the aggressive peek on the big window, claims one, nearly lines up a second there. If the peek was just a bit more aggressive from Runner, might have been able to take a second head off, but not going to find it so early. North Eption, regardless, will take back the advantage. That's caused Revan to freeze for at least for a few seconds here as they try to figure out what to do next. The phone call is the immediate reaction to it, although it's not necessarily giving them the winning info that they would need to claim the next kill. Sam will ultimately find it, though, catching Nina on the rotate back over to the hatch drop from inside of Kids.
That's such a big kill for Revan. With their 2 nade players gone, their only way to really clear these positions was try and go play for a trade, but they're in a man disadvantage. How will they do it? But the other way is North Eption give them an opportunity, which they're now being presented with even more. The top 4 players are now completely dealt with. The thing North Eption had remaining to waste even more time is gone. Revan have 1 minute and 15 and a man advantage, not even necessarily to find these remaining players, but just to move into the site and get enough coverage to put the bomb down.
Runner will commit himself to the drop inside of Mina. Keep in mind, of course, playing into the kitchen site right now, so not full access just yet. Sayo-chan will immediately counter out some of that aggression as he catches Wrath, trying to go for the long haul control. Brings us back down onto even numbers, and Revan starting to run out of time a little bit here as we're down to the final 50 seconds of play. No immediate path forward here either. As you'll notice, the 2 Selmas going back over onto the kitchen wall. There was a mute jammer, it looks like, blocking that, so they're not going to be able to pop that open. They'll be forced to try and play things around the other side. They'll see if they can sneak in this impact to make the Selmas work, and indeed they will. So Sam will get back his angle over here directly into the kitchen. That'll cause at least 1 player to rotate on the North Eption side. But as you can see here, the Toxic Babes only just now being triggered. That was a second one coming out right there. So Sayo-chan still has 1 more to waste out an additional 10 seconds. And there it is right there. So will take us down to right around the 10-second mark. Sam trying to play more so for the angle here. So relying on Runner to get into proper positioning to swing the site. But you can see the Toxic Babe has extended over in that direction on top of the defender inside of security itself. Runner does make that entry, however, so it is still working out here. Sayo-chan finally counters and goes down to the ground for one final pump of the shotgun to close this one out for the defense.
Very close round by North Eption. They are giving so many opportunities away to Revan that are allowing the attack to rejoin the game, to recover what is seemingly a lost round. That top floor clear is a big example of that. They go 1 for 1, but a trade that favors the defense in actuality, even though they don't get a 5v4. But then the 2 players sitting in dorms rotate, or one of them at least, rotates in front of big window right here. And that makes a clear a lot more feasible. Runner also, that's not really North Eption giving up a kill. That's Runner getting some good timing going his way, because as Revan go for the flood, the security player makes the decision to try and deal with the player walking in. Runner just outmaneuvers him, but North Eption gotta be careful. Even though they won that round, you can't be giving opportunities away to Revan, especially with Runner 8-2 right now.
North Eption thankfully having a little bit of a sigh of relief since they haven't locked the initial site they won once again. So they can try to chain these 2 sites together here, see if they can take a little bit of a lead for themselves, at least try to go for the 4-2 scoreline, which will still be relatively okay for them at the end of the day if they're able to rebound for a pretty successful early opening of this game from Revan, taking 2 separate attacks on the basement site. Struggling outside of that one, though, maybe just in closing out inside of these late round situations, but this site was the cleanest one we had seen by far from North Eption, so we'll see if that'll be the case once again. Another aggressive run out here from Nina, and it does get it down. Unfortunately, not being able to get the full package here. Drell should be able to crawl back over behind the van and have a teammate bring him back up.
Still very nice, though. One of the 3 main frontline players for Revan now gone. 2 nades also, if you just land 1 bullet that you don't have to worry about anymore. And with how aggressive Joe is, if he ends up losing or gaining another opening death for his team, that could be both the nades gone depending on how this round transpires. They've already made their way into trophies, so some good control established, but he's not on that window anymore. He's sitting in the doorway, and this is a lot, well, maybe easier to challenge, or at least a lot harder to take a gunfight or a favorable gunfight for Joe specifically, but they've used those EMPs. They've at least tried to open up the wall, but the impact trick has not been dealt with. Nina's also got that kill on draw. They finished it off and taken down Sam as well. So that's your remaining exothermic done and dusted.
Definitely a solid side setup once again coming in here from Northeption. Sayo-chan striking on an aggressive swing too, this time against Joe. He's been one of the leading players, but Runner is the leading man at the moment for Revan as he claims yet another kill. Still leading the charge for the overall server at 9-2. With the second highest being Shureep there at 7-3. Runner, we'll see if he can make things any better up against a pretty tough situation here. He does still have the support of Wrath, of course, there on the Thatcher, but regardless, for both of them, this is a tough break to try and make work here now from the 2v4 perspective. Case is down on the ground as well. I don't believe that this wall, was never even open, so Wrath's gonna have to go for the hard peek over by the trophy doorway, which is very heavily defended. A good pre-fire there from Runner. The angle just doesn't line up, unfortunately, with the floorboards or something else blocking his way up on top.
Does spot one player downstairs, but loses the fight. Unfortunate for Wrath. That leaves Runner, the man of the hour. The man of the best of one so far. To recover diffuser, maybe, or at least just get 4 kills. Seemingly an unlikely position. Northeption, of course, did see someone get aggressive down below, but now they've won the fight. They're all standing stagnant in their positions, which is what you should do here. No need to throw it, no need to get too aggressive. Especially, that was for the early round. Northeption taking some very, very early engagements against Revan that paid off in spades. Nothing really to worry about once they got those first 2 kills, and especially once they took down the Thermite at that. So Runner's basically going through the motions and fulfilling a prophecy that was said about 30 seconds into this round.
Not much, like we said before, that he can really posture towards with it being a 1v4. Just trying to work this to the best of his own capabilities. Northeption giving us a great show on that round, though, showing us what they can do when those challenges are not really countered out by the attackers we've been seeing for some of the previous rounds. They've been great at countering out some of those aggressive peaks like we saw from the window, but Northeption having much more control over it this time, having angles that favor them a heck of a lot more than it was Nina that did most of the heavy lifting there inside of the early round itself, picking up 2 of those right from the beginning of it, included that initial down that obviously was translated later on against the Sledge.
Yeah, that C4 kill is just a big one. I mean, that presence in Classroom is not even really known from Revan. That's a big, big oversight. It seems like they know what they want to do. They know what areas of the map they want to take, but that's all they really focus on. They're not really gathering a lot of that secondary intel or keeping watch on positions like Classroom, and if they are, they're still letting players rotate in and then not just make, impactless plays or run in and get fought off. No, that's a C4 on your Thermite. That's your entire attacking strategy done and dusted at that point. But thankfully for Revan, I can't believe I'm saying this, we're going back to basement. This is the only site that Northeption have not won so far, and they've gone to it twice. So Revan still have a very good opportunity, at least given the precedent, to end this 3-3.
I do think, again, that some of these wins from Revan have been because of the decisions that Northeption have made. They presented way more opportunities to Revan than may have necessarily needed to give them. So we'll see once more if Northeption is able to kind of make the adjustments they need to make in order to potentially have a bit more of a successful round. But it seems like, once again, quite an aggressive stance being put out by them as we have the Goyo playing small tower, trying to counter out the initial clear here. Time just a little bit off for that. And here's the problem. Once again, Nina, who is roaming upstairs on the 2nd floor, gets caught out by Wrath. I believe on a pre-fire, clearing out a barricade. As a result of that, just like the previous 2 basement holds here, Northeption are going to have to work from the back foot on this one to try and come back into the round.
That's a shame as well. With how seemingly early round focused Revan's drones have been, if that Solus had survived, could have seen a lot of damage done to Revan's mid-round game. But the damage is all done to Northeption. Runner getting the 3rd kill for the attack, the 4th kill going their way as well. 45 seconds in, boys. The round is done. The half is over. It's 3-3, even between Revan and Northeption at the side swap.
So as we head into the second half, for me, again, I got to put some, point out some issues here for Northeption. The fact that, in my opinion, they were their worst enemy inside of that half, giving over, especially in the early round, far too many opportunities for Revan to entry, especially on their basement holds.
And even the mid-round and the late round as well. I mean, that was their biggest promise on basement, is I think they feel like they need to do more than they actually need to defend basement properly. Take, say, on Freezer, you have that position, you're playing aggressively, seemingly a little indecisive on what angle he wants to hold or what he wants to prioritize, or even going further back into that 2nd basement round, having a Goyo sit inside of security. Sure, he's got someone helping him on Freezer stairs, but that's a very easy position to pinch for the attack. I think Northeption may be overcomplicating things for themselves, and a 3-3 half isn't bad, but there was potential for a 4-2, even a 5-1 if some individual decisions had simply been made differently.
We'll see if they can still rebound from that, as they've had a very successful attacking side in their past games as well. So they're going to try and correct on the mistakes that may have been made inside of the first half here in order to still come out on top of this first game. Keep in mind, like I said before, very important that you win this initial matchup. This is going to be the only best of one. I believe these teams will end up playing into, at least for this phase of the tournament. After this, whether they win or lose, it's all best of threes. But if they lose this one, their very next match is potentially for elimination. So they're going to have to be very, very careful here. Getting that win does give you that kind of extra life, as it were. And Joe nearly taking away one of those lives from Northampton right at the beginning of the round. But much like a lot of the pre-fire attempts we've seen work out, it just hasn't landed. The second peak is much better from Joe, though, as he's able to take down Nina once again here at the beginning of round 7.
And Nina, the star player on Northampton, by far and away the player we've seen the most talk about how powerful his entry game, or just how powerful his mechanical skill can be. So talking about him, it's not even the nades that are gone. It's just the fact that he's no longer holding a gun and that he's got to be on drones for the remainder of the round. Players like Yukiz or Shuri, they might have to pick up the slack. Dokubi call goes out, so they know Joe's still roaming around on this floor. But it's the smart read and the smart decision by Revan. They've got the opening pick. It's a basement defense. Just pull back. Northampton are still going to spend the subsequent minute or minute and a half opening up hatches, gaining intel, clearing out utility, using some of their Rotero drones or some of their remaining frag grenades. You don't need to give them opportunities to make this a 4v4 or 4v3 if things were to really go poorly. Just let them play their game, because it's going to take most of the round.
Once again, Northampton playing this slowly here due to the deficit that was built upon them a few seconds prior. The Shuri only just now starting to move in and take out the utility pieces that are sitting on the inside of construction. Thankfully, it's pretty minimal in here. I don't believe we have the extended shield out, right? No, we don't. And on top of that, we've only got the one additional Goyo canister sitting here in the corner. Shuri's going to bypass that, though, and move forward to take out something else. That may have just been a standard drone moving forward. Either way, though, he's moving up now, trying to take better control. And the magnet that he took out with his initial Rotero drone has already been replaced, that I saw there real quickly, too, from Revan. So Northampton not having the best of luck right now in terms of opening up that pathway. We can see the X-Kairos does go off successfully, though, onto the inside corner of the E-wall. So that at least opens up that overwatch option from the players that end up dropping. They can keep one up on top, kind of lock a Wrath into a corner here, prevent him from getting hyper-aggressive. About to see that aggression come through from Northampton, though. Is Wrath ready for the challenge? Indeed he is, at least for the first player that comes up against him. Draw comes in for the assist. Sam will be lost elsewhere on the site. But the good news is Wrath, as well as Draw, still have great control over the situation, so they take quick control of this first round of the second half.
Very solid team play and decision-making right there, not only from Wrath, but also just Revan as a whole. Northampton decide that, okay, we've lost the opening advantage. Moving down Freezer, moving down Laundry, we're going to expose ourselves to too many angles. Let's just try to take a fight on big tower stairs. But no real use of the flashes, unfortunately. It's not entirely their fault. Those magnets still remained a menace, going well into that execute from Northampton. So even had they tossed out as much of their utility as possible, it was going to be likely it would have just been caught in the end. No matter what they tried to do. Northampton, an admirable attempt, but Revan simply had more utility and the advantage. So once Northampton went in for their best possible execute, Revan could just play those trades, and they didn't even really need to in the end.
Revan taking solid control there on round number 1. So on the warpath towards victory here now. If they can complete the set and do one more basement hold, that'll be it. And they will take control of this first matchup here. So we'll have to see now as Northampton tries to make up for things. Potential pause could be in the cards for them, too, if they don't get things together in the next round or two. So let's take a look at their second attack. Now going to be up against, obviously, kind of the second floor hold here from Revan. Pretty expected number of changes to come in from Revan as well, as they're going to triple down on the nade mitigation here, as we'll have the full set. Jaeger as well as the Wamai and the laser gates coming in there from Wrath as well.
I think it's a very good decision based on the lineup that Revan saw, but also the lack of utility, especially projectiles they saw from Northampton. I mean, the flashes were either sucked up or weren't really used to clear Wrath out of pillar. Their nade player died early, so if they can get a kill in that entry, take down Yukiz or Shuri, unfortunately not happening today. Nina gets the better of Joe in round 8 as opposed to round 7. Still, though, not a lot of active utility lost by Revan. Those ADSs will persist. And the same thing is true. If you do end up taking down one of those nade players, it could be big, but they've at least taken down a player. Nina, that star fragger on Northampton, down 2 rounds in a row.
Bit of a trap counter working out there pretty well from Revan as they hear the repel noise from Nina heading up to that second floor window. Knows that it's going to expose him when he goes back down. Thankfully, they had a second member roaming around on that first floor there. They're able to reposition him by classroom window where Joe had died. Draw, though, in a bit of a tough situation here as he's trying to turn this fight around against Shuri. Unfortunately, Draw brought far too low, though. Only had that little sliver of HP to peak with, so still ends up losing the battle. But gets some of the HP that was lost from him back onto Shuri there towards the end of it, as he knocks out just short of about half of his HP.
Speaking of which, Shurip on that secondary entry also alongside Nina. Very well-renowned player inside of Japan, though a little bit more inconsistent than Nina. Some days he's very hot, some days he's very cold. Today, though, he's 10-5, by far and away the best performer on Northampton. Right now, one player 0-7, another player 1-5. Shurip able to salvage this and get an advantage for Northampton. Moving under a minute 30, we'll see a movement over towards Attic to try and open up an angle this way. But no movement over by Master Bedroom. That could be a problem. Even if they have someone big window, which they do, to apply some release pressure, they'd still only really be pushing in through concrete or through the dorms rotate, and the big window player can only help so much from that angle. Sayochan is banking on getting a kill from someone in this rotate, getting a little bit lazy or a little bit unaware inside of the site.
Rest of Northampton trying to group up for the first big push towards the site itself. Under a minute to play into now, so running low on time to make that happen. Shurip just going to go for the default opening here above him. Nothing to be found inside of that, obviously, as you guys can see from the silhouettes. He just wants the POV, I think, more than anything right now. He's going to try to stay down below and play this out a little bit longer here, hoping to potentially catch one or two players as the rest of his team tries to bargain for positioning by big window. As well as eventually with a push up through white stairs here. A lot of intel actually being bled out for Shurip there as the Gemini gets very deep into the sights and knows the exact positions of Sam. May have gotten a glimpse to the player that's rotating in between Attic and the current room that Sam's in as well. So a lot to play on there, but they do need that secondary angle to play off. But Shurip will get a little bit of intel if he saw the laser, which I definitely believe he did. So we'll now move in to excel and picking up that kill. Problem is, Sam picked up 2 response kills, and we're now pretty much out of time. Wrath shuts down the push from Shurip, and the last player here, Yukiz, gets away with one into the 1v1 itself, but Sam still controls it for Revan as they sit just a few rounds away from victory now.
Also, the first site Revan have won, that was not basement.
True,
on 2 different halves. Now they've won it to go up 5-3, and that was a very winnable round for Revan that they ended up winning. Northampton had the control they needed, but they just sort of stopped. And Revan had some useful angles, albeit the bare minimum. They had someone holding big window. They had someone who could contest either the trophy walk-in or the attic walk-up, or even white, depending on where they wanted to reposition, and a third player at site to aid either one of those positions as well. So Northampton, what they needed to do there was hit it. Recognize the control they had, move up white stairs, move in through big window, and try to play the trade on the player inside of dorms, but they let indecision take them. And the players on the attack just ended up pushing some solo angles, not really playing off each other, and gave Revan the 3v4.
That has been a characteristic issue for them inside of the Japan League games as well. One at least that I happened to watch last night and getting prepared for this game today is the fact that they have great entry power when they're able to showcase it with players like Nina finding the entry against Joe, but then they tend to slow things down a little bit too much as they get closer to the site. And as you were mentioning, they sometimes end up floundering the advantage they may have when it comes to the actual site execute time. So we'll have to see if they catch on to that and try to maybe speed things up a little bit if they end up in a similar position into these future rounds. If not, Revan's going to certainly take back all that control, especially here on Oregon. They are given the opportunity to do so. Tertiary site now for Revan, so hopefully a good opportunity for Northampton to try and close the gap a little bit and prevent an outright map and match point from being claimed this early on.
Interesting. So we're going to see a quick execute from Northampton. The Amaro does not have the diffuser. That's a player stationed over by Garage or on the southern side of the map right now, but Shuri may be planning to send it up through that meeting hatch, acquire some quick control, or cause chaos on the site. Now it seems they're pulling back. I thought they were going to move in quick, but now basically Northampton are all over the map at the moment. So unclear whether Shurip is going to go up that hatch or even where Northampton are going to push from. They're all spread out at the moment.
Phone call has gone in early from Northampton. And as you can see, Shurip has got the intel on a backstairs player. We'll see if he can get the successful sneak, but no, the crosshair is aimed too high. Joe gets the first peek of it. As it will swing out and knock out Shurip, first kill of the round once again to our defenders here on Revan. As Nina, or another player from Northampton, tries to pull a very similar move that we just saw from Shurip. I think he's a little bit slow on the reaction though. Unless Draw continues to maintain this position. Not necessarily going to line up for an opportunity, but here we go through the paling. Yukiz lost a little bit. There ends up being a 1-to-1 exchange, but Runner gets the player advantage back for Revan with his kill against Nina a few seconds afterwards. Yukiz now taking up positioning just on the inside of Cafeteria here as well, preventing the run out with that air jab. The swing may come in from Revan. They hold it back at the last second as they hear that breach going through, so don't want to challenge that in this scenario here. Still a 2v4 attempted to be worked right now by Northampton. And unfortunately, the entry angle that they've made for themselves is so brutal when you consider that hatch up on top. So Joe's just going to go for the outright peek, take full control over this situation, and put that map and match point up on the board for his squad.
4 rounds in a row, 3 defenses, all of their defenses so far in a row. Revan about to send Northeption down to the loser's bracket, or Northeption will have to play for their lives if they don't win 3 rounds in a row on the attack, which so far it seemed a little difficult to do. Revan take the timeout? Really?
Bit of a weird one, but it definitely seems like that's the case. So Revan, once again, icing the kicker a little bit here, making absolutely sure their next site defense is going to be set up the way they need it to. They have the pause, so they might as well use it, I guess. But yeah, when you're on a roll like this, it is a little bit strange to see them opting to go for the pause at this point. But a little bit of a present, I guess, to Northeption, maybe giving them the hint. Is like, hey, guys, you might want to figure out your stuff for this next round.
Yeah, Northeption also have a timeout. Like,
I mean, true, yeah. Just to correct,
okay,
that was actually Northeption's timeout.
I was about to say. I was like, Northeption, come on. Like, you're 6-3 down 3 attacking rounds on Oregon. Surely you don't let your opponent take the attack timeout. But yeah, it was Northeption that took the timeout. So we're all good. No need to panic. Still think it might be a little bit late. Maybe should have taken it after that dorms round when you went down 5-3, because now you can fix this attack, sure. And if you win basement, that is a pretty good omen to go forward, I will say. But it's still only just 1 defense needed by Revan. 1 round where things almost go Northeption's way, but maybe draw clutches a 1v3, or they trade back an important opening duel. That's the best of 1 done.
Yep, it is all or nothing from this point forward here for Northeption. 3 rounds in a row, otherwise Revan takes the game outright. And even those 3 rounds in a row don't necessarily guarantee a Northeption win, mind you. That just gets us to overtime. So a bit more work to be done even beyond that as well. But that's the next point where Northeption would be given an additional round to lose. So let's see what the plan is going to be. It's a little bit different here, especially if you look towards Shurep, as he is going to be bringing in the Monty to play things out on this round. And Joe, a very aggressive drone kill here to start the round out as well. Knew it was in the corner, so might as well get rid of it.
Bro said I could play Solus and do that exact thing, or I could play Warden with a better gun and do that exact thing. Go for it.
Swing out and take care of that real quick. Thankfully, no one from Northeption anywhere close to being able to take advantage upon that. Still way too early in the spawn for them. Nina's sneaking the Twitch drone forward, but being a little bit cautious. Doesn't want to send it around the corner if someone is waiting for it. Joe quickly turns tail and runs down the stairs, though, when he notices that there is going to be a Monty pushing things here in Big Tower. So that's going to be very quick Big Tower control going over towards Northeption. Not going to be the end of all the aggressive shenanigans maybe getting out of Revan, though. They've taken a bit of a page out of Northeption this time, as you can see. They have quite a bit of an active roam over towards Freezer Stairs and at the bottom of Classroom Steps as well here. Runner gives up the ghost, though, with those shots. So we'll need to begin quickly negotiating a rotate back downstairs. However, Nina's here, but Runner gets the better out of it anyway. Runner down to a sliver of HP as well from that one. Just barely somehow turns that fight around against Nina.
Not the roaming Mira. Surely not the roaming Mira. On 1 HP as well. This is not a great omen for Northeption. Still have over half the round to go, but only just now opening up these hatches. I believe a C4 was just sent out by the defense, one that misses. Now 1 player that goes down as well. That's Joe taken off the board, and with Runner on low HP, he's playing back inside of the site, but if somehow Northeption can find him, or even find another kill on, say, this player inside of Long, could make this a 4v3 and then a winnable round. The Montaigne is pushed very far down, but is very separated from the rest of his team, and unshielding a little bit too aggressively for my liking. The rest of Northeption is going to need to catch up and flood into Pillar soon, or else Revan will probably pinch this guy.
The Montaigne being played so actively right now. He's moved all the way from pillar to elbow here. The Toxic Babe in its face, and as well, he's going to pop it. That'll finally force him back. He'll just follow it through, stack as much damage onto the Montaigne as he can, and this is the more important part. Give the room needed to get this reinforcement down and close the jaws shut on this attack, making the situation very awkward for Northeption. As you can see, they do not have a proper angle of attack now as they try to open up a second one inside of E. Immediately, a Nitro moves forward. Now, Troll and the rest of the squad have had a large issue taking out this Monty, but they've finally completed the task by using those Goyo canisters. He goes down. Favar, though, has been able to insert himself through E and has found the counter on to Draw. So Northeption still very much in this round, and as a result, still in this game. Only 25 seconds to try and make this work. First plant attempt coming in now. Runner goes for the peek and drops the planter. Doesn't need to stay out for that. And with 1 more kill, they'll seal the deal.
With that done and dusted, Revan move on to the next BO1. Northeption down to the lower bracket. We have a break coming up and more matches right after this.
And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Copenhagen Major, the first major under the new ecosystem for this year of Rainbow Six. And what an interesting result we just had from our very first match. North Eption for giving us some interesting defensive holds, an interesting play overall on the Oregon game plan. Problem is, giving up way too much, especially on their defensive side, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's the sad thing. Their attacks left a lot to be desired, and based on how they were playing, the game was probably going to go Revan's way no matter what. But North Eption giving up some of those defenses would have at least made it closer, maybe more like a 7-5 or even overtime. But Revan's defenses, excuse me, looked way more clinical than North Eption's.
We're going to have to see as well here how North Eption will try to kind of correct those mistakes. I do feel, once again, it was a lot of the same things that we saw echoed forward, at least from the small sample I was able to get inside of the Japan League. So hopefully this is something they're able to go back to the drawing room tonight, be like, okay, guys, we tried to play things out our normal style. That's not really working, at least against Revan. So we have to analyze things for our next opponent now, see if we need to potentially go for any more drastic changes or potentially hold it back and change, or rather make some smaller changes for the next game.
Of course, North Eption now, they do have that best of 3. It's a do or die, of course, in elimination, but they've got more than just one map to try to make this work. Minimum of 3, max of 4 in the Copenhagen Major. And of course, they'll have to win them if they want to move on in their group.
Absolutely the case. So once again, just going to be a few more moments here, ladies and gentlemen. We will have an interview ready with our winners in just a moment as well. We're going to stick with you and break things down. Actually, it looks like we're ready for that interview right now. So let's head over to the player area and congratulate our first winner of the tournament.
What's it like being online here?
Well, this is like my first ever LAN event. I've just turned 18. Well, a few months ago. And I've just got into Pro League, and first stage I've made the major. Online is completely different to an online build, so I was a bit shaky getting into it, but I had a good game, so not much to complain about.
You had a good game indeed. So moving forward as well, how are you feeling about your individual performances?
Individual performances, I think we're all strong as an individual performance and team performance. We get along with each other, vibe along with each other, and stuff like that. It's good.
Okay, this is actually also the first time for you guys that you're going up against a Japanese team. So in terms of the vibe that you got, how was it?
No disrespect, but EU's better, unfortunately. But yeah.
But you're not from EU yet, though?
I'm English.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's a fair enough point. So you backing the EU boys this time around?
What, sorry?
Are you backing the EU boys?
Of course I am. Sonic's going to get a good win on them.
Okay.
I believe Citizen will go insane. He's my boy, obviously.
Okay, so I love that you're bringing up the next game, because that's also one of the talking points that I want to go into. The fact that, you're predicting Sonic's coming through, you're then going to be heading up against them. So how are you feeling about that one?
I have a feeling we're going to have a good, we're so unpredictable in how we play. And I think I think Sonics are more of a structured team, and they play better against structured other teams, and we're not structured at all.
Okay.
So I think we'll come out on top.
Okay, I love those expectations. In general, looking at the whole picture of things, I mean, this is phase 1. Obviously, the goal is to be going to phase 2. Realistically, how far are you expecting yourself to be pushing it?
We're winning the major.
Okay, I love that. The confidence, let's go. Thank you so much for the time to do the interview. We are going to be heading to a quick little break, and we'll be back shortly. welcome back. Raven Club just takes a very dominant win up against Northeption, and that's the first best of one out of the way. We have another one coming in this exact same group. It's going to be Sonics up against La Vega. Now, this is again going to be the first time that we're going to be seeing some of these teams because, again, it's day one. So let's bring up the bracket, starting off with the fact that we now have Raven advancing towards these first best of three. They're in the upper bracket, they're chilling, but Northeption still get a chance in that lower bracket to be heading forward, but that depends on who is gonna win the next game. Sonic up against La Vega, loser goes up against Northeption, and that is when best of three comes into play. Loser is out. We can also have another look at the groups just to see what we could expecting today, because as we said earlier, we're gonna be covering Group C as well as Group D. Once it does show up, we'll talk about it, but for now, we have our casters as well who are going to be walking us through the next game. We have a little bit of a caster rotation, which also means that we're going to be talking to Hap and Fluke once they're ready. At the moment, you know, we're still waiting for them to come through, so that's fine, okay? It does happen sometimes. I mean, I'm going to be sitting here. There's a couple of players behind me. You guys can already see that they are getting ready, which honestly on this LAN environment has been pretty impressive. You can feel the energy in the atmosphere. I wish you guys could hear the players. I don't know if my microphone is picking up, to be completely honest, but we are, it is. I got told that it is, so maybe at some point they're gonna be picking up. But we're gonna be coming back after a short break. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got the vibes going, but like I said earlier, there was going to be another caster duo on the block. This time, I actually do mean it because we have them on the line, so
I don't know, but we can find out.
I have a feeling.
But it's not a risk because it's club. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows the steps. Everybody knows the dance and the maneuvers. Clubhouse is familiar ground. And, you know, the other one that was at the end of that map, Vito, was Oregon. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of club at Oregon.
I agree.
Over the next few days.
I mean, Clubhouse is what we call the checklist map. It's the map where everybody knows what to do. You just mentioned it. And that always gives us that even playing field. Whose basics are better? Who has those fundamentals really, well, fine-tuned ahead of this major? And that's why it's such a good map to go up against for basically an unknown team against an established team, because it gives us, for the remainder of the tournament as well, a bit of an indication about how far they actually are with the rest of the teams here at the tournament.
And as we have our wonderful sweeping shots, we'll be in the game as soon as possible. And I mean, it's still early doors in the sort of showing. And you know, I think what we get from these teams, or what we sort of expected from the stage 2 teams, it's weird to call them that because the first stage teams, the teams that have found themselves on the lowest possible rung of the fight of the tournament, the fact that one of these teams will be eliminated by the end of the day, maybe one of the two from this matchup.
Yeah.
And then Sonics is in this pile of teams, and you're thinking, should they really be here?
Yeah, should they be here? That's always that big question you have.
But I guess it's down to them to prove it.
That's it, right? They didn't have the best start to the North American League. They struggled behind there, 6th place. Just like Vega, by the way, in Korea, 6th place as well. Both on their respective last chance qualifiers. So their road towards this major has been practically the same. But of course, we have slight bits of differences in terms of notability from teams out there. So let's get underway. It is going to be Clubhouse. We mentioned it before. It is the basic map. It is the checklist map. It's the fundamentals that shine here. And as we get going with the bans, we're going to see 4 operators removed that cannot be played.
What?
Match. Yes, I know. It's the definition of banning, I would assume.
This is the definition of banning. If you're new...
I'm just making sure the new viewers that are just catering in for the first time.
New viewers. Hey.
This is what we're going through.
No Flores. You may think, but isn't that Flores casting behind the desk?
Yes, that's why I banned.
That's why it's banned.
I cannot play and cast at the same time.
Cannot participate. Hibana as the follow-up there. And the thing about breaking down as well in terms of teams and how they run the gauntlet and have themselves used to the situation, Sonics also obviously have a fantastic back of house stuff. You've had players and brains that have won awards for what they can do behind the scenes in terms of preparation and delivery for the team support structure.
Yeah.
Bans like Flores, removals like those with such a sort of delicate attention paid towards what your opponent's doing. Again, is it another arrow in the quiver?
Could definitely be that it's one of those, you know, cheeky little punches they want to throw out early. Like, we know you rely a lot on Flores. Let's take that out because you might have been winning it for the last 4 times you've played it, but we saw you relied on that. So we take that away. How good are you on that map still as we go on? So round 1 is going to be starting off very soon. It is going to be Sonics seemingly on the defense to start off. They'll be down in the ground floor, the basement to start it off with. And, you know, that basically always lets us go over towards these kind of hatch drops plants or executes to come through. And they're always a bit tricky to nail down. So it's going to be very good to see how La Vega is going to be going up against this North American team that, you know, has a lot of experience playing down on this site here.
And as always, it starts with a steady balance of what we have on the right-hand side of the screen. If this is a check-for-check map, these are check-for-check attack operators in the current meta. Ash has had a big bit of resurgence recently. Dokkaebi is too powerful, I think, in the books of pretty much everybody. Alongside the destruction and the soft and the balance, this is a lineup that once upon a time we had an attack meta that was the same 5 operators. Attacker repick showed up, but here on this map, on this site, these operators, you could blink and have been back 2 years. The approach will start it to a cracked over the top. They'll try and get some clarity on anyone that might be going for a hold and a roam all the way across the top 2 floors. You'll probably see about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes worth of just getting the clarity before they start smashing down hatches onto the basement itself.
Now, if I'm correct, I do not really see any roamer currently on the board for the side of Sonics, and that should speed it up for La Vega if their drone game is on point. Actually, scratched out, I believe it's just one. Should be the Valkyrie Citizen that's out there near the main stairs roaming around. Coming back down now as the phone calls goes off, of course, means that he might be hunted, so wants to give himself a bit of a security as he does so.
It's almost like the BDS roam. The joke that Dez loves making is, you know, BDS are roaming if they have a Valk and then bring them back towards the site early on. However, the aggression that Sonics hold is one that is more than happy to try and fight its way out of sight in certain places. This isn't an easy site to do it on, but if you suddenly have an opening or an option on towards blue, maybe even on towards the main stairs, you'll try and make the best use of it. Getting quite aggressive on the hold here. We'll hear the plant, hear the breach, we'll have the awareness. But again, as I said, up until that sort of final minute, they're just preparing. They're getting themselves the width. The Buck is going to shepherd the player away, bait out the C4, and give themselves hopefully a cleaner route through.
That's it. There's 2 C4s and Valkyrie cameras have been placed. You just saw outlined there. It's active in the kitchen as well. And that means that if they want to go for a drop out there and they haven't really opened everything up with a skeleton key, they might be prone to be caught off by one of those nitro cells. And the same goes for main here. You see the opening that has been made. They can just, you know, throw one over quickly if they realize there's 1 or 2 more players inside of the main area.
They haven't been able to get a body in a fight. This is when that time starts to become a little bit more worrisome. There's a spread, there's a push onto pipes. They see the hole in the hole, but with this going over the top, this might get caught out. They're not going to actually throw the explosives back towards it, but they're going to fight their way around onto Moto. The call of the hammer, and they can't quite get the hit behind it as the Dokkaebi is still just held off from the ace being the swing round. The smoke is doing everything to stop the swing, support that Dokkaebi, and as I said, they're isolated. They do not have the motion to be able to finish what they started there because of the good play. Grixer bites their way back onto Moto Door. There's Geometrics getting themselves tucked in onto the tuck plant itself, but now with only the Ash left, what started as a bit of a drive-through was met by a blue wall built by Sonics, ready from multiple different angles. This sort of just tore up La Vega as soon as they tried to enter.
Bit of an awareness from Sonics when the eventual push was coming through. You saw there a Citizen. He was trying to challenge the hatch, trying to make sure there was no drop coming down a motorcycle. Didn't realize that there was already a player down there inside, taking a horizontal fight, which shut him down. But yeah, afterwards, no real problem coming through for Sonics. They were able to properly, you know, take out those kills one by one. You see it from Crown here, just picking them up beautifully. Bit of an awareness. But you're in a very good position, playing aggressively onto the Selma openings that have been made on that breach. Wasn't really being put under any pressure there, so you could just continue playing like he did. Picked up 2 kills as a result, and you know that kind of halts your attack if you're coming from that side.
Keep pushing, keep moving. See where we end up next as they begin the rotation, but do not head to the top floor. Instead, Baba.
Bar stage, yeah.
I'll always push that button.
Bar.
The bar button.
Used to be the biggest advocate for when it was a bar.
Now, bar stage, I love it as a site. I think it can offer obviously a lot more than it used to offer with the rework, with the changes there. But most importantly, it offers creativity. It gives you a bit of a space to play some ideas. There's the first. Can we try and take out the Maverick early on? Well, didn't quite get the lock in. But as I was saying, there is this the room for the sort of mirror windows, the stretch, the solace all the way underneath, causing problems here. Maybe wants to get a bit of a punch onto dirt.
Now, verticality is often very important here for bar stage, and as the mirror window gets spotted out now, Marine also very much aware of the fact that you don't really want to be going down there. You need to deal with that mirror window in a different way. And, you know, going to be using an extra thermic for that, most likely. Well, at least punch it open. They shoot it open as well, and that means they can now go for an impact trick. If an actual extra thermic is going to be attempted by Crown, who's playing on that thermite.
Waiting patiently, maybe for something to be thrown out and baited at them, or maybe just for an adventure, but the adventure will only be pressured by this, the Iana on the back end, forcing the space. They're hoping to waste the utility, because they can now try and push that, and also hoping for that, the removal, but the impact does not quite have the impact that they wanted. Went straight out, Citizen. You can see shakes his head and his character a little bit, but he still has the second wall to fall behind. There is a lot of focus here onto the bedroom side instead of what would usually be a stage take.
Yeah, that's it, but they realize the neededness of taking that top floor under control, because the amount of verticality that's out there is going to be making it very difficult on actually getting a plan down. So they realize we need to take this under control. We need to shepherd out these players before we can even attempt to plant. What they do not realize, though, is that a lot of time will be wasted this way. 90 seconds. They do not need to move on the Sonic side. All they need to do is stop Crown as he moves in. But he gets the entry yet once more. And that's a double to follow up with it. And suddenly the whole top floor seems to fall as it's only up to Citizen now. As he strikes back with a double.
Swings through, gets the collateral, is trying to find the third piece to the story, and he catches him reloading. And he might have lost the wall, but he's able to almost take them all. Crown swings around the top of the main stairs and puts a much-needed stop to the rampage of Citizen. However, suddenly a 2 versus 2. They have some pocket utility. 2 flashes, 2 grenades, but where are Sonics going? Gunner on a long rotate, all the way around to the back, and Geo with a rotate of his own towards the top of red. They're hoping they can be the surprise factor. When you have that Solace that just drops the drone there on the corner, watching the flank, suddenly those options are getting worse and worse, and that 30 seconds is ticking ever closer to a perpetual disaster.
Two evil eyes, and of course the Solace gadget out there that they can use to stop this from happening. They have everything in the pockets now, Sonics. All they need to do is make sure that the plant indeed does not go down. Now, the cover is going to be attempted. Grenades are going to be tossed around just to make sure that the evil eye will not be successful, because look at Crown. Look at how low on HP he is. And as soon as Sonics find out that they're no longer going to be on the top floor, this map will be retaken as Gunner just in the middle of the side, cleans it all up, and finds themselves a second round.
It's like a moment before tragedy. Caught sprinting, rotate. The default camera knew where the plant was. They didn't trust that they could sort of hold the stick and get the cover from that side as well. I mean, obviously, a lot of it boils down to Citizen sort of sticking his heels in and getting 3 kills on the top before he was taken off the board, but still, in that sort of situation, how they got there, the collateral round onto the swing, Crown lost a lot of health. You can see Gio's making the distance. The Solace was above across all the soft as well, and there's nowhere you can really hide.
No. Crown did a lot of work there, though, the Heartbreacher, getting 3 kills over the top floor. Like, just personally cleaned it all up. Of course, Citizen was able to strike and find 2 in the meantime, but he did everything he needed to do there. And as we head towards the gym area now, gym and bedroom, of course, we're going to see a bit of a repeat is what we saw in that last round. Again, the gym and the bedroom, very important. This time it's the site, however, and that means a lot more utility will be, well, basically put inside of it, because they need to hold on to it a bit more drastically now than they needed the last time round. But we also will have the extension over towards CCTV, towards cache, maybe even a little bit onto the mezzanine in the garage, just to make sure that if they want to go horizontal, their life is not going to be made easy here. And especially having that window and CC under control, so you can stop them if they're going over the balcony and trying to put pressure in from the windows, that's always a big thing to have.
Sonics have got themselves 2, but that last round I think might be a bit closer than the ending did, apart from that little bit of heroics in the middle of the round. Can they see if they can try and push that advantage, carry themselves a bit deeper, a bit further in? The first round was definitely even-handed. At the same time, Sonics, I think there is that level of pressure, of expectation. They should win this. They have a very good chance too. It's up to La Vega to have to step up massively here, and as long as Sonics sort of keep themselves level and play to their game, I feel like we're going to see a lot more rounds similar to the first than the second if they can get their heads on.
It's kind of what I said beforehand to you as well before the game started. Like, Sonics have everything to lose here. Like, this is their game to lose. They're expected to come out on top of this group without too much struggle going through it. So that's what we want to see from them. We want to see that dominance that they know they can bring. And of course, La Vega, they are here. They are the underdogs. They're trying to make something happen, a surprise. And, you know, they've taken quick control of CCTV and cache, now trying to move over towards the construction. They have some free space to move through, but they need to be careful for the player that's inside the logistics, or even at the bedroom door, because they can just swing in and take you down as soon as they get a sniff of you being out there.
It's good. They forced Geometrics Gio off of his position there, and further and further back, they're just pushing behind their own cover. There's the swing. Citizen taken off first. There's an angle down towards the back end that they just get the pick back up on. Grixer was able to find the Iana before they swung themselves back into the site itself, but suddenly the balance is still into the favor of those putting pressure onto the site. Damali gets Gio at the top of the stairs as well, a 4 versus 2. They blind the player tucked in. Gunnar has the impact, but he doesn't really have anything to loose it on. There's a swing round. Damali's on a quad. There is an ace out of absolutely nowhere. First ace of the tournament, I believe, and it was cool as you like via logistics with the map drawn straight through the heart of Sonics' site.
Every single round so far, La Vega has been able to get the entry kill. Maybe even 2 at points, but they weren't able to convert it until just now. And it starts off with the ace. Again, Heartbreacher that's doing a lot of work out here. Clears the guy in construction, clears the main stairs twice, and then goes over for the final kill. But it seems to be a bit of unawareness on the side of Sonics, because he gets that 1 kill from logistics, and then he's able to just get a second one right in the back of it.
Wow, welcome to the Tier 1C. Welcome to Copenhagen.
Welcome to the big stages, yes.
Welcome to the big stages. Pull off an ace on your 3rd round against Sonics. That's something you write home about.
Definitely, even if they would be losing the game later on. It's like, I aced against Sonics, it doesn't matter.
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary. today I aced.
I mean, it's a great round, and obviously, you know, you could talk about an ace being a defining factor. You have to look at what else is going on there, in that pretty much every single other remaining player, LaVega, was still up, was still putting pressure on a 4 versus 2. They got the swing onto 1 just about their Maestro before they were dropped from the back end. Ooh, they got the down, they got quite, there it is! I mean, he saw the player go down, double dip with a pistol, just to make sure that Iana does not have a round, but to be honest, 0-4, haven't been able to have one yet.
No, not really able to put his signature onto the game so far, so that's unfortunate for the side of LaVega for the first time. Not going to have the entry frag to go in their favor, and it's definitely going to be hurting them later on as we're going back towards church. Look at Gunnar, still around in strip, still out on the road. He's taking out some drones, which aren't really being watched. But is he aware of the fact that there's someone on the opposite side out there? Well, there was a bit of a spray through the softball out there, but they don't really seem to have any information on Gunnar, so he has the opportunity to just dig in, stay inside the strip, let Crown come to him. And I believe that's exactly what's going to happen, because he's hiding at the doorway here. He's going to be opening this up soon. Gunnar exactly aware of what's happening, just waiting for that door to open up before he goes for a run out there.
Oh, the drones roll through and the lines go on, but it's an awkward play space to get yourself out of. The music can only cover so much, but what it doesn't cover is the swing round. You have to think there's one route out. If they're watching Billiard's window, that gets watched off either side, regardless of which rotate you choose. And then there's 2 ways in to your box. You are pretty much caught in the end of a mousetrap, and the balance is back, but time has been wasted. As I said, they've got about 20 seconds to try and keep themselves onto the pace. They've lost the Iana, they still at least have the hard breach, but you're thinking of what they'd opened before and what they still have to open now.
They do not know about Citizen, though. He's still hiding around on that top floor on the logistics desk. So if they want to go for a push
hands off the
down,
keyboard.
Yeah, his hands off the keyboard. He doesn't want to move. It's just in the mouse if they start pushing in. And now they start pushing in from the main stairs. There is fire out there. We'll keep them at bay for now. But as soon as there's more pressure coming onto the site, Citizen is going to be making a move. He's going to be playing that lurker role that we know and love him to do so from the EUL. There he goes, spot spawn. He's waiting very patiently, but he misses the opportunity. But now they're aware there's one on the top floor. And it's an important choice to make. Do we hunt? Or do we let him be as Citizen gets the first of his flank?
Squeak to kill through the bars there onto the door. Damali, the man of the previous round, is going to see if they can try and put the hunt and the hurt onto Citizen, but 30 seconds. You're taking a big detour for a 1 versus 1, and yeah, you got to make it happen, but you've also got to make the site take, and that's it. They weren't given the fight in a clean way. They didn't think they could have the strike. They tried to bait the motion there, hit the window, but Citizen, he's cool as a cucumber. He is nowhere else to be. He's happy to sit and wait for this. The pressure to drop the smoke canister onto one side, the drive straight down onto the plant behind the A. Okay, so the pressure towards it itself. There's a fight from Grixer. He downs the Ash, which you might not know about, but as they just try and stick the kit with the cover, it's Rexon getting the swing round. It's slivers of health and Grixer with the final tap onto one more, and Grixer gets the end of another Sonics round.
So Gunnar taking a lot of the attention there at the start of the round. Of course, it started with the spawn peak, but after that, he gets spotted inside a strip. There was no way out for him there. He was guaranteed to die, almost. And I have to say, LaVega played that well. They did everything they needed to do. They had the drones in there. They were approaching from multiple angles at the same time. So a refrag was always going to be happening out there. But then, you know, there was 1 minute 30 left on the clock. They didn't really drone out that top floor. They basically assumed it was going to be clear, and that's what hurt them there. They wanted to go for a hunt. It's not enough time. Decided to go for just a quick push onto the site. Sonics was ready for it. Managed to shut them down. Find themselves a 3rd round. And they'll be happy with it.
We're going cash here.
They know what they need to do here today, Sonics. They have one goal that's been given to them. Survive this best of 1. Do not drop down into the lower part of this GSL format. And make sure that you can lock this off as first in your group. That's the goal they've been given by their support staff in the back.
The goal?
The goal.
The dream?
The dream. The task at hand.
The task at hand? What's on the dream board?
The dream board?
Yeah.
I guess winning the major.
That's
would be
probably good.
Yeah.
You want that on the middle?
And then go over to 6 Invitational afterwards. Win it 3 times in a row just so you become the new dynasty.
That's a very big dream
You were
board.
talking about dreams. I'm giving you dreams.
Okay, but like how big is this board?
I don't know how big of a board
I
they
think
have
follow
at
your
the Sonic
dreams,
HQ.
guys, but also start small.
You start with small stats, right? You go
The journey of 1,000 dreams starts with a single smaller dream.
which is win this game first.
Win this game. Win another round. Will the Monty be that hit guard? aptly named. This is the one with the tons of steel in front of their face and driving their way up towards the take. Now, when you've limited your hard breach and using an exothermic there on the bottom of garage, it does raise a couple of worries. Obviously, you've got the pocket hard breaches in Damali, but you're looking at where you want to use the other one. You sort of need CC wall open with an exothermic, and you've got to play that smart because you know it's a team that likes to play against you.
There was nothing there to stop it, so they were able to open it in the end. I'm not sure if they found out by droning, but at least they have the opening. Now, the fire is starting to come through, and that's going to be forcing Rexen into a bit of an unsafe position as the Monty's coming right at it. But Gunnar gets one, somehow only up into the last bullet before Guard is going to be able to get the kills. Not even that, it's the fire that managed to get that kill down onto Rexen. But at least they have the Monty into the mezzanines. That's often a very important part of their strategy.
Yeah, it was Gunnar swung his way around just here from hit swing, and now as the door is under a lot of pressure, Geo's offering some support, but they've got the Monty right up against the boundary of the site itself on the top of the rafters. A minute 20 gives them time to formulate a plan, but you're now looking at, well, what do we have? We've lost the grenades, the couple of smoke canisters in the pocket might be able to cover some, but when you're playing against the danger of potentially impacts, 2 more smoke canisters of their own, you really have to try and find a way to waste that utility, bring it out against you without losing any of the ground or your own.
I think that's why Marine just opened up into stock as well, just to let them know, hey, we are willing to take this vertical fight, just so you cannot be able to go in from below, use those impacts against us here. So smoke canisters are going to be used right now. Crown wanted to go for the plant right in the breach, as you saw, but it popped off, so it's going to be stalling him for just a little bit longer. It's going to be a bulletproof camera down on the side as well, so they're going to have the, well, basically complete knowledge of where the actual push is going to be coming from. It's Gunnar now is going to be stuck with the Monty inside his stock, and there is a door right behind him that could be utilized by the remaining players to Levego. Oh no!
Citizen rotated his way down, and you were sort of screaming for it from the players that were on the side and the balcony outside CC. They had the man boxed in. They get the pickup, sure, but it's 20 seconds late and at the cost of your Monty, who was just dancing. The fight onto stock door, it really did not need to be that delicate about. 4 seconds, Grixer tucked onto a side, knocks one, gets knocked back, but Citizen gets the end of it, and now Sonics, they're still hurdling. They're finding success across the board, across multiple different sites. Will they be able to, I don't know, maybe bounce their way over towards Gym Bedroom, see if they can get the lockdown there from what didn't work, or go back to bar?
Get aggressive swing coming out from Gunnar out there, and Citizen coming in to support. That's probably some unlucky timing from Guard there, because he unshields, he unextends at the moment Citizen comes down the staircase there. Pure unfortunate series of events there, but even then it would have been a 2-on-1 situation. Very unlikely to win it as a Monty at that moment in time. And indeed, we are going back to Gym as the very final defensive round Sonics wants to play today. Unless we head to overtime, then they get to play 1 or 2 more, because they want to prove they can win on every single side, I guess, against La Vega here. I mean, they love Clubhouse. So
they love Club.
It's kind of a statement piece.
They're in the club.
They're in the club right now.
In the club.
Might be clubbing right after this. We know. Who knows?
You find them in the club.
10 seconds left.
We find them in the club.
Okay. Don't worry.
Right now. Sorry.
Your knowledge of early 2000s rap and.
Attacker's objective is to locate
I was just a mere child in the early 2000s.
I think it was early 2000s. It was a while ago.
98.
It was a while ago. 4-1, La Vega. I mean, if they can try and get a second round here, obviously on a site where, you know, they've been able to find high pressure. As I said, it was an ace, sure, but the team had good structure. The team was moving behind it. You're only really seeing one player in this whole lobby, actually, that hasn't been able to get themselves buried into the game of kills as of this moment in time. It's a shame it's Yuriana, but you're up against some great gunners. You're up against some of the best gunners in the world. So it's always tricky. The pressure, the cutoff on the rotation. You sort of try and force those players, Grixer and Rexen, out across the top. They have the support of the Solus underneath this time, though, so I think they're going to dig themselves in a lot longer, because at this point last time, they're already giving up parts of the zone.
There's definitely some good quick openings being made here by the side of La Vega. I like the structure that they're bringing with opening up construction, opening up CCTV, just so they can start getting some control out here. But look at Gunnar, just hiding. Have they just
they
seen
saw
him,
him.
though?
I think they saw
Oh,
him.
yeah, there comes the grenade. It needs to move because that's going to fly right through him, and that's going to be the kill. First. Boy.
Yeah, it was a bit of a risk. Rexon does fight back, and I guess this is what I mean by they're not going to give the territory over. As I said, they'd long since left it. We already had pressure onto logistics. That difference of 30 seconds. Think about all the rounds we've had here from La Vega before, where time has been the ruiner. They're going for pushes with 15, 20 seconds left, and well, that's why they got to do this. They rotate round onto the back end. They're not going to play games with players and just lose their time, but Citizen wants to play them of his own. Swings the construction breach, and takes Crown out for the trouble.
It's to 4 and 3. Not a lot of time left for the side of La Vega. There's a minute left. They need to try and formulate a push right now. They need to go in together and make sure they have that one synchronized push to come through. You cannot go for too many angles at the same time now. And you also still have Citizen inside the logistics. Hatch drop here is going to be all taking you down. So you need to try and find a player first. But Citizen finds him instead as he was trying to get right behind the railings. And that leaves it only up to Gart now. And a 1v4 gets taken out from the window on the side. And that means it's 5-1. A very solid half for Sonics here.
They put up the front. They went to that play that we saw them on the first sort of side of the day, and I said it, there's 20 seconds left, and Sonics have given them everything Sonics want to give them. To the plan, and to the play, and to the idea of this is where we draw our line. Before that line was much further back on Jim, and they suffered because of it. They didn't expect the swings to come through with the aggression. That time there, though, that was a Sonics that said, oh, no. This is what they get. And they get a body, they get the grenade from underneath, they get a bit of pressure here, but otherwise, I'm happy that this is Sonics territory.
Onto the attack now, and it's a very, different kind of lineup we're seeing coming out from the side of Sonics than we saw from La Vega. We see a Fuse, we see a Brava, the Nuck on Citizen, of course, a more mainstay operator. Actually turning into an IQ. Just make sure that you can hunt down the Solas, the Warden, the Muzzy drones. A lot of information that can be... Never mind, I shouldn't be talking about this stuff. Just keep changing their mind.
Change their minds. Get it out of here.
It's lying. This might be a quick rush.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Good gun, good ability, good bit of control. But it doesn't allow just a quick rush, but also a coordinated rush. And that might be what they're sort of banking on here, the coordination of their guns swinging in hot, rather than their guns swinging in hot as they also push in hot. Ooh, although, look at that. Straight through, there's one. Is the second found through the corpse? No, Gunner. They're able to survive, a lot of bullets absorbed there, but still, well, I guess you're partially right. They went for, what was a quicker take? They're stepping in, which is hyper-aggressive, but it paid off. Damali wanted to route back through to the site, and he found it via Gunner's head.
Got a quick push coming in from the side of Dirt right now. They have a bit of a ping to go for. It's also going to be the E1D. It's going to be straight through, but not quite the kill. Crown lives. Didn't even have to move there, Gio. Not quite accurate with the actual shots to come through. Spots the back of the smoke. They're still not able to connect. And now they know he's definitely going to be coming in from the dirt tunnel here. They can just shut that down. Use that utility. Keep some guns pointed at that direction because they have a man advantage. They have that 4v3 situation going for them. So Citizen, he's going to try and go for a bit of a different angle, seeing what he can maybe find. Grixer as well inside the bar. Might have the opportunity to, come down the main stairs. There's no hard breach gadgets they can use. There's no more Selmas either. So it's literally just going to be through a choke point.
Selma did get a little bit of an opening, but as I said, the cost is now one where they've got to try and rebuild the rest of it with just brute strength down onto what is already open. They have a couple of flashes and a couple of claymores, but otherwise, you're eyeing down the fight against 4 players with C4s, impact, smoke canisters, everything that needs to deter a push down. Oh, a couple of routes through. The double door itself, blue door, and what are they gonna do here, Sonics?
They might just try and hit it from every single possible direction they can hit it from. Main stairs, blue and dirt tunnel all at the same time. See if they can isolate a pick somewhere. At least one of the hatches has been opened up, but this one is not too favorable for any drop because you're literally going to be seen from the AKs. The Mali can just step out at that moment right from behind the generator out here and open up some pressure on you. Even the smoke canisters are starting to come out. So they have a really good idea where this push is going to be coming from.
Oh, Damali dipped a bit deep there. Gio's able to lock out the kill. The E1D pops off, as he said. Citizen tries to put some pressure down on from the double door. Suffers on the end of it. He needs the remaining Sonics players to either assist him here or put the pressure elsewhere. It comes down onto the corridor from the Buck. There is 15 seconds. All three of them throw themselves through. Suddenly they have the man advantage. Suddenly they have an eye towards the side, but it's watched from the back. And there it is. They're able to find their second round here. One off the back of an ace, one there off the back of sort of keeping a good bit of cool and control. Their first defensive sight. Can they make it 2 in a row?
And that's that next step. Of course, they are still 5-2 behind. Now they're on that defense, slightly favored, so they need to start working that and make it a big favor for them. Let's go for a third round. It's a shame that the body blocked so many bullets out there. He was really trying to, you know, take the fight for it. Ooh. Ooh, good shot there at the end, actually. Didn't see that one happen.
A little pop and a fadeaway.
A little just pop, single shot.
See you later.
All you need.
I got business elsewhere.
Yeah.
I can't sit around.
We're somewhere to be, and that is gym, bedroom. Yeah, that's where we have to be.
Not too far away, thankfully.
No, the travel time is very restricted out here. I think it takes a minute or two from end of round into the next.
Brava. You want to explain Brava for all the people at home that might not?
Yeah, so Brava is the newest operator we have in the game. Brings the clutch drone, which is making for fun workplace for us, but not so interesting for you guys watching at home. The drone has the ability to swap, as they mentioned it during the death panel, swap allegiances of gadgets.
Yeah,
electronic gadgets.
Yeah. So if you've got a Capcan trap and they're like, boy howdy, do I hate attackers
with this? Yes.
It gets a little bit of a talking to by a Bravador, and suddenly it's like, well, maybe you're right. Defenders are the ones that should explode. Yeah. So you can steal gadgetry.
Master negotiator.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Brava yet, if you're sort of coming back into this after a season off, they are a good addition. Some of the notes that we've had about the drone as well from the players and the teams is it's quieter and quicker than you sort of are used to. So you've obviously got Flores drones, you've got the noise here, and if it's a gadget that is, you know, this sort of position, it'll just work for your favor. Didn't get them on my disc, but did get the 2 bandit charges.
Yeah, and that means this wall's just going to be able to be opened up now. Of course, it doesn't have any use of swapping the allegiances of a bandit wire out there, so it just destroys it instead. Magnet would have been if it would have succeeded. But openings have been made by the side of Sonics, and, you know, that pushes them towards that next point of ingress. But Damali down here, prone, inside a cache, looking to take the fight over towards... I was going to say the garage, but a drone has just spotted him out there, so they're aware of the fact he's out there. They're not going to be overextending right into him. Some extra angles are being created for his teammates out there, and all Gunnar needs to do is just wait until he just steps out of line.
Yeah, he's gone. He didn't want to sit around. I think he sort of smelled how much danger was around him. He's tucked close, and actually, as I said, he dips his way back in. He's trying to waste as much time. He's got the confidence, but all here is a little bit more pressure. The reveal on the player. There is the ping. There's the drone. There's the catch. And a bit of revenge for the grenade kill we saw against Sonics in a similar position as before, but they didn't see the second player. Guard gets one, Lion gets one right back, continues the pressure onto logistics as Grixer dives all the way towards the face of the site, but caught by a C4 through the hatch. I was going to say, that floor's not destructive, but a hatch that's open sure is.
Yeah, through the arc, just in range to pick it up. And now, having the opportunity to rotate back, the pressure on the side has been alleviated just slightly. But, as you see right here, coming up on the main stairs, you're instantly taking some shots. You cannot really push through as far as they want to, as quickly as they wanted to, because Citizen is on that hatch, stopping that rotation from happening. And as long as Citizen has that covered, all they need to worry about is that player inside of the bathroom. Another grenade comes through. It's going to be putting up some bit of pressure. Gunnar now inside the side, but not with the diffuser, so cannot go for a plant.
Well, Citizen's able to get the player's head on the back end. The camera's giving them some support. Sprays through onto one, caught quickly by the pickup onto the next. And Sonic sit on map. And, well, series, it's best of 1 point. If they take this next one, will find themselves progress along this bracket. And unfortunately for their opponents, they'll find themselves suddenly in a best of 3 to determine if they can keep fighting in Copenhagen.
It was just a drop down from Damali as well that actually got him killed out there. Like, he stepped off the table and that moment the grenade exploded. That's what got him killed in that matter. Tactical timeout will be called by the side of La Vega. They have some stuff to talk about here because, well, I mean, this is it. It's do or die for the next 4 rounds. They do not have any breathing room. They need to make sure every defense is going to be perfect from here on out, or perfect enough to make sure that Sonics is not going to be taking the victory away from them.
Perfect enough.
It doesn't need to be 100% perfect, you know? If Sonics make a mistake, he can make a small one too, but you do not want to give them the advantage. You need to make sure it all sticks in your favor.
It's obviously the change in the tournaments, the change in the structure that we have now is this first day can be everything. This first day used to be start of groups, start of first performance. Maybe you'll play 2 games, maybe you'll even play 1. Maybe you'll have a day off sometimes.
Sometimes you do, yeah.
Sometimes.
Worst case, you have the rest of the tournament off.
That's the worst case.
Yeah.
That is when, yeah, I would definitely
one of
say
these teams that we saw play for the first match, and this match is going to be the case at the end of the day. It's so sad.
Attackers have located a bomb.
yeah.
Yes, it is. They flew all the way over here to Copenhagen to play a tournament. For some, the very first opportunity ever. Going out in day 1, it's not what you want.
And obviously, based on the result, if you do not want spoilers for the first game,
10 seconds
well,
to go.
now's the time to not listen.
5 seconds left before insertion.
The other APAC team that we've had from this morning lost that match.
Attackers are heading
So
out to defuse a bomb.
if La Vega lose this, it would be 2 of our previous APAC sort of the regions were played together, Japan and Korea. Now obviously they're separated in the new system, but they are still fresh regions, they're strong regions. And one of them will be going home, one of the new bloods from those 2 prosperous regions in Siege.
Yeah, and the winner will be playing up against Raven, who said they were going to be beating Sonics if they were the ones coming through. It's going to be a very exciting match to come through. And the winner between those 2 is already qualified. The loser, of course, is to play against the winner from those 2 we just mentioned. Some small holes being made by Maverick here, just to provide some lines aside. We are on CCTV. It's fallen out of huge favor for many defensive teams due to the fact that it is such a checklist map. Are you going up against one of the best clubhouse teams in the world? Not the best, one of the best. And that means they will have no worries opening up this wall unless there's any impact trick out there to stop it from happening, but it doesn't seem to be the case. And with that, an opening has been made. With that, the pressure will rise significantly.
They're just looking for that first pick, that first engagement that they can sort of full send themselves behind. The Bandit tried to do a bit of thievery of a body outside the side itself, but they just sort of draw some focus as Damali suffers next. The Solace under pressure towards Bar. They're trying to tuck their route through, but with stock being opened quite early on, it's always the worry that you're going to get caught out. The drone is the feed through. The second drone, I think, is there on some support. They're holding the angle. They want to try and, as I said, take this first engagement, Sonics, but they're not quite sure of where they can put their weight and put the pressure down.
Still a minute left on the clock. Garage now opening up. It's usually step 2 of your plan of trying to get rid of the player onto the mezzanines. But Wally still being out there right behind the motorcycles, and Damali getting that first kill into Grixer is going to be making sure that there is the opportunity right now for them to at least hold on another round if they manage to work their numbers advantage properly.
Revan. Rexen even. Revan was earlier. Rexen. Sorry. Rexen able to get one back there. The Bandit gone off the top, and suddenly they're inside the site. Gunner swings around, is able to take care of one, gets the second right behind, and well, this is suddenly falling apart here, and in the blink of an eye, Sonics, they throw themselves into the site, and they take over this game.
And with that, we are headed to a very quick ad break before we'll be back with the post-analysis of this desk.
what was expected. Sonics, they're able to sort of take a strong handle over that showing onto Club. They keep going forward. La Vega, unfortunately, find themselves now on that lower bracket.
It's what was expected. La Vega had a tall ask from them, taking the victory here from Sonics, and Sonics showed exactly why they might have even belonged in Stage 2 if their North American season was a bit better than it was. Of course, they came through the last chance qualifiers, but yeah, they make some short work of some of these rounds, some good shots coming through. But I want to say, just have it said, La Vega, they had some good ideas. They played structure. They tried to work together as a team. The ace coming through from Damali was beautiful to watch as well, and they definitely caught Sonics off guard with some of their entry kills.
I think that was the sort of showing up here, though, is against a team that wasn't Sonics, La Vega definitely would have been able to get themselves more teeth into the fight itself. It's a roster that's having their first international showing versus a team that's had plenty with some of the players that have played on the biggest stage in the sort of penultimate and ultimate rounds. And then you have this roster from Korea that's come up in the new system, got themselves a couple of sort of heads from their region, but experience wins out. When you see Citizen with hands off the keyboard at certain points waiting, that's experience. You can't really teach that.
It's like, I'm not making a single move. I don't want them to hear me. I'm just gonna use this hand, just keep it out somewhere else, and just wait for the perfect moment.
Now the perfect moment is upon us as we throw it over to the wonderful Ginny with her interview with the winners.
Hi, the winners indeed. We have Gunnar from Sonic. So first of all, welcome to Europe. You flew all the way over from NA. How does it feel to be here?
Feels great. Well, I'm a little jet lagged, but it's all good.
Regardless of the jet lag, you guys had a really great performance. But I want to start off with talking about the ace from Dumarley. How was the team morale after that one?
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know Dumarley aced, but good for him. I had literally no clue until right now.
Okay, well, you're welcome. I'm here to give you some of the insider information. You weren't playing the game, it's fine. But you're going to go up against a Raven Club, and we just had an interview actually with the runner, and he was really looking forward to playing Citizen. So, in that regards, do you want to exchange some words?
You know, good luck to them. They had to leave their region to go play in an easier one for some reason, but, you know, we'll see how it goes.
It's on Thursday, so you're seeing we'll see how it goes. But do you have expectations at least? Maybe a prediction that we would like throw out there.
No, that curses game. You know, it'll be a good game no matter what.
Okay, it's going to be a good game. Kind of speaking about the good game that we've just seen here, last time at SI there was a lot of expectations from Sonics, and I felt like you didn't really meet those expectations. So what's it like being back on the international stage and having that opportunity to prove yourselves again?
It feels really good. We've put in a lot of work recently, so we're just here to show out and maybe meet those expectations.
Do you have any expectations for yourself individually?
I mean, I'd love to see us go all the way, but one game at a time.
One game at a time. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for the interview. We're going to be heading to a break, and we'll be back shortly.